Hello, and thank you for joining me today as I review the owner-occupied feasibility workbook for Federal Home Loan Bank Topeka's Affordable Housing Program, otherwise known as AHP. The primary focus of this video is to give you an overview of the feasibility guidelines that are listed in our implementation plan, also known as the AHP IP. We'll also cover the feasibility workbook and how to complete the specific information for your application. First, let's cover the feasibility guidelines listed in the implementation plan. The AHP IP includes a table of contents where you can select a link that will take you to the specific exhibit you would like to review. The feasibility guidelines are within Exhibit A and Exhibit B. Take notice that the exhibits are specific to rental applications or owner-occupied applications. As a side note, owner-occupied applications are also known as homeownership applications within AHP Online. These two phrases can be used interchangeably. Okay, so back to the exhibits. Because the link in the table of contents will take you to the first page of the exhibit, you'll want to scroll down to the owner-occupied section. Exhibit A will review the cost guidelines for your application. And if you are awarded a subsidy, you will be required to follow these guidelines for the entire length of your project. Let's cover the information that's provided in Exhibit A. You can see for down payment assistant applications, developer fee and contractor fees are not permitted. Although they are not permitted, we assume if the project is building a new construction unit, these type of fees would be included in the purchase price of the home and not separated out on the closing disclosure. The other fees listed within Exhibit A are homebuyer education fee and sponsor fee. The homebuyer education fee cannot exceed $500 per unit, and the sponsor fee cannot exceed $500 per unit for a down payment assistance project. However, for rehabilitation, new in 2022, we have increased the amount of sponsor fee available. You can either request $1,000 or 10% of the rehabilitation cost, whichever is greater. If you continue to scroll within the AHP IP, you will see Exhibit B. This exhibit covers eligibility and other feasibility guidelines. For owner-occupied projects, these are typically feasibility guidelines that are market-driven, such as loan terms, mortgage rates, lender and discount fees, as well as front ratio guideline for down payment assistant applications, as well as below market rate applications. If awarded, these guidelines may change with each disbursement request. There is a mandatory disbursement training after awards are announced where this will be covered in detail. You may have heard me mention below market rate applications. These are applications which are still considered down payment assistant applications. However, this is where the sponsor is the lender of the mortgage and is offering the home buyer a below market interest rate. Below market interest rate is defined in Exhibit E of the AHP IP for your convenience. They do require a different feasibility workbook be completed, which will be covered in a training video on the website. Now that we've covered the feasibility guidelines, let's review how to complete a feasibility workbook. Make sure that you are on the AHP application tab. Make sure you download the file, because if it opens in a browser, some of the formulas may not work as expected. All project types should start with and complete the Start Here tab. This tab will assist you in determining which feasibility workbook to complete. The application name will auto-populate from the feasibility tab, which is completed. The only thing to do on this particular tab is to select the application type. Are you submitting a straightforward down payment assistance application? Maybe a rehabilitation of homes owned by the occupants, Or are you a sponsor who is the mortgage lender and is offering a below market interest rate? After selecting Rehab on the Start Here tab, you can now navigate to the Rehab tab at the bottom of the Feasibility Workbook. After you enter the project name and the date you've completed the workbook, you'll see there are boxes where you will need to enter the different targeting group that you will commit to in your application. Please make sure that the total number of units entered here matches the total number of units listed within AHP online. If they do not match, the feasibility workbook will not upload. Let's start with the sources of funds that will be included in the application. Ultimately, the total AHP subsidy will need to be listed in the top row. Initially, it will show up red because the corresponding costs still need to be entered. We will get to that in a few minutes, but first let's go ahead and complete the sources section. If you have other grants, such as a weatherization grant, please enter that in the corresponding row. A few rows down from that is where you also want to list any member financial participation funds that are being donated. If you are unsure of what that is, please watch the application user guide and scoring commitment video. After all of the sources are listed, the subsidy per unit and total subsidy requested will be shown. Now let's scroll down a bit to enter the costs that will be associated with the application. The information in this section should be based on data you've gathered from local contractors regarding costs involved in a specific rehabilitation job. The workbook can include different types of rehabilitation work, such as roofs, HVACs, plumbing, electrical work, etc. However, if the application is awarded, please know that your project will be allowed to change the work as needed, so it's specific to each homeowner you work with. Because of that, it's also allowed to gear the feasibility workbook to just one type of rehabilitation work. If you believe that you'll mostly be working with roofs, that is the only information that we would expect to see on the workbook. Applications for owner-occupied units are typically conceptual in nature. We understand this, and the remaining information should be the best information that you can gather for your area. The number of units for each type of rehabilitation work should be listed. Again, we do not require you to hit these numbers exactly. This is just your best guesstimate. In addition to the information entered in the feasibility workbook, you will be required to upload a sample estimate for the work that's listed. Please upload only one estimate for each type of work that's listed. If the approximate cost of a roof is going to be $10,800, a corresponding estimate is expected. If you are also entering information for HVAC systems, let's say for $6,700, or plumbing information for $2,300, corresponding estimates should be combined and uploaded into the application. As a reminder, we do have feasibility guidelines, which have data validations within the feasibility workbook. If the data is over our guideline, the feasibility workbook will flag it and you will be required to lower the information. Please identify any other fees you want to be reimbursed for. This might include interest on a line of credit for the sponsor, which are reimbursable expenses. Documentation for exact costs will be required at the time of disbursement, not application. If you will be requesting a sponsor fee or a homeownership counseling fee, you'll want to make sure to enter them here. And as a reminder, new in 2022, we have allowed the sponsor fee for rehabilitation projects to be either $1,000 or 10% of the rehabilitation cost, whichever is greater. And of course, If homeownership counseling will be committed to in the scoring criteria in the application, you are allowed to charge a maximum of $500 for each homeowner that attends the course. After this information is entered, you will see the remaining gap, which will indicate your subsidy per unit and total AHP subsidy that you will be requesting. We are not concerned if the numbers are not an even amount, such as 10,000 per unit or 400,000 per project. However, if you are concerned about that, you can adjust the sources or costs to change the AHP gap, otherwise known as need for subsidy. The amount of total subsidy requested may not be able to be even due to rounding issues within the workbook. I will say though, for scoring purposes, we will be reviewing the subsidy per unit because that is the number that adjusts your score. This number should be your main concern. Thank you for watching the video today regarding the feasibility workbook. If you have any questions about guidelines, please visit our AHP website and click on the application tab where the current AHP implementation plan can be found, along with other resources available. And again, please reach out with any questions that you have, or if you have trouble uploading the feasibility